Hello and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'll be updating you guys on all the latest Kaspa news as well as the information regarding the wider crypto market. If you do enjoy the video, please leave a like. And only 24% of you watching right now are actually subscribed, so it would mean a lot to me if you could smash that sub button and join my community. Anyway, let's get right into the video. Let's begin firstly by taking a look at the wider market, particularly Bitcoin's recent price action. As we know from my last video, the two main downward pressures on the price were firstly the fact that the German government was selling a significant portion of their holdings, and secondly the threat of Mt. Gox, the exchange that collapsed in 2014, selling their holdings in order to repay their creditors. To provide a further update on Germany, we can now confirm that they have sold their entire holdings of 50,000 BTC, which is worth over $2.4 billion. This came to the distaste of many in the market, as many were asking the question why. In my opinion, and I'm sure in the opinions of most of you watching right now, you will understand that Bitcoin is one of arguably the best assets in the entire world that one can hold, as its value has continued to appreciate and outperform in comparison to any other asset on the whole market. And it will no doubt continue on its same upward trajectory as adoption continues to grow too. So, just like me, you would be wondering and asking the question why Germany would choose to sell their 50,000 BTC. Well, in fact, the issue is more complicated than it may initially seem. That 50,000 Bitcoin was never actually purchased by the German government. Instead, they had acquired their holdings through confiscating the Bitcoin from an illegal movie streaming website in Germany, which was relatively recently shut down by the German police. Now, the issue came in that instead of being able to keep that confiscated Bitcoin, unfortunately for the German government, they have a law in place that forces them to sell such confiscated assets, therefore suggesting that they didn't actually have a choice whether or not that they could keep hold onto that Bitcoin. The only way that they could have held it was if they had altered their laws, but clearly they realised that this was far too much hassle and likely have a different strategy in place. This could then suggest that the German government are not bearish on crypto and it was simply their own laws preventing them from being able to hang on to it. Consequently, who knows, even though they have been forced to sell all of their holdings, they may still be interested in soon buying it back with their new liquid capital, as long as it isn't needed elsewhere in their budget. Ultimately though, this news is bullish as it contributes to my thesis that we are in the final big bear trap before the bull run gets going and Bitcoin goes parabolic. We can see this as American Wall Street were extremely swift into scooping up the BTC at the cheaper price through their Bitcoin ETFs. The total inflows into these Bitcoin ETFs totaled to $300 million on Monday, $216 million on Tuesday, $140 million on Wednesday, $78 million on Thursday, $300 million on Friday, $300 million Monday on this week, and $400 million on Tuesday of this week. That means that over the past 8 days of trading, we've seen ETF inflows totaling close to $1.8 billion worth of Bitcoin buying. Consequently, this is a clear indication that these major financial institutions are very bullish on Bitcoin at today's prices and are in a very quick hurry to buy as much as they can at this cheap rate. All this ETF buying has reinvigorated the market, which explains this growing sentiment as Bitcoin's price has continued to rise from sub $60,000 to now around 65K. So this is your time to remain calm, do not give in to any fear or doubt, and keep buying if you have the available cash on hand to, but if not, just hold on to your bags and hold on tightly. Despite that though, however, it is important to address the potential impact we will get from Mt. Gox distributing their Bitcoin to their creditors. It is significant to take note of the fact that they have a much larger holding than the German government did. They currently hold around 135,000 Bitcoin, which is worth around $8 billion today. On Tuesday, it was reported that they have deposited a significant chunk of their Bitcoin into Kraken exchange, who will be carrying out the distribution of their assets back to Mt. Gox's creditors. Supposedly, this distribution will be carried out within the next 7 to 14 days from that Tuesday, so it will not surprise me if we see some chop in the market and greater downward selling pressure onto Bitcoin. But it is also important to take into consideration that the creditors will be paid back in Bitcoin, so it will be up to them whether or not they want to liquidate their assets or continue to hold the Bitcoin. So do not fear, as $8 billion worth of Bitcoin isn't just going to suddenly be liquidated. Nothing like that will happen, don't worry. It will likely just be a small portion of that will be liquidated, and therefore we could see the price of Bitcoin having a small correction in the next 1 to 2 to 3 weeks. Again, this event does highlight a short-term squeeze whereby paper hands will be shaken out through their fear growing as we remain in this bear trap. I do thoroughly believe, however, that after this Mt. Gox correction that we may soon be seeing BTC quickly recover, and then it will be time to retest our all-time highs and potentially push through and break out of this massive bull flag. This should also line up very nicely with the calls that have been recently emerging about an altcoin season very soon, which I did speak about in my last video, so go check that out if you haven't already. In that I cover a couple very interesting charts that suggest we are very close to altcoins growing in dominance, which is ultimately very bullish for Kaspa. By the way, while you're at it, subscribe to my channel as well if you're new. Right, now let's look at Kaspa's recent price action, and I will provide an analysis on what I believe is likely to play out. As you can see, since my last video, we've still remained hanging around this region under 19 cents. This is a very good sign that we are following the plan, and my previous technicals are perfectly on track as we look to break out of this flat-topped triangle very soon. With all of Bitcoin's recent price movement and fear across the market, the majority of altcoins were down in the last 30 days. However, Kaspa has held extremely strongly, which is very bullish and continues to highlight the idea that, in my opinion, Kaspa is the safest altcoin to hold this bull run and return very large gains. As of the last few days, Bitcoin has recently pumped up above 60k, and with it, Kaspa has moved from 16 cents to this 18 cents area. As always, I've labelled this chart with my 8-month fractal, allowing us to compare this current 8-month cycle with previous Kaspa 8-month cycles. So, rewinding back to the final shakeout region in late 2023, we experienced a pretty much identical flat-topped triangle, which formed before the pump from 5 to 15 cents. As you can see, it was this big green candle here that broke out of the resistance exactly 25 days after the 4-month halving point in the 8-month cycle. Now, if we go back further and look at the 8-month cycle before that one, we can see that this triangle pattern emerged again in March 2023, before the price pumped from 1.5 cents to 4 cents. This triangle was broken through 40 days after its recent 4-month halfway point. So, coming back to today's price, we are currently 37 days after our recent 4-month halfway point that happened on June 10th. Since this 8-month fractal that I've been using is pretty accurate thus far, it could mean that we may soon be seeing the price following in a similar fashion as the last 2 final shakeouts, and therefore we could be very close to breaking out of this triangle and heading towards our next major peak. I believe that this upcoming pump could happen within 2 weeks, with a high likelihood that when we next retest that 19 cents range, we could smash straight through it within a number of days. When you zoom out and take a look at how far the previous major pumps took to the local major peaks, there seems to be a similar pattern. After breaking their resistances, they both pumped for around 2 weeks and increased around 200%. Therefore, that could be the benchmark for the next major Kaspa pump. Please do remember though that technical analysis is just a vague guide to help aid your confidence. It is not something that I rely heavily upon. This is generally because fundamental news can often come out that makes predictions from technical analysis actually inaccurate. For example, in my personal opinion, the current technicals are pretty conservative and they do not take into account the fact that there is so much bullish fundamental news with Kaspa coming very soon. So much so that we could be seeing prices propel further than 60 cents. When you factor in the idea that this next pump will likely see Kaspa listing on huge tier 1 exchanges as it completes its Rust migration and it achieves 10 blocks per second speeds, as well as KRC20 open beta relaunch coming soon. Ultimately, this could mean that we could fly straight past the 50 cents region and straight into the 60s. On top of that, with rumours that alt season is near, it is important to take note of the idea that when alt season kicks off, coins usually break their technical price action and pump much harder than expected, which again suggests that Kaspa could break higher than just a 200% increase from its resistance. Additionally, within the next couple of days, the Ethereum ETF could begin trading, and on top of that we will soon be seeing more information regarding Solana's ETF filing. Both of these could act as major kickstarters for the crypto altcoin season. Both events will likely translate into greater cash and demand flowing into the crypto industry, and that capital will then trickle down to other major altcoins including Kaspa, particularly as it has been the best performing crypto in the entire market since it was first launched in late 2021. Now, before I wrap up the video, some other quick news regarding Kaspa includes that the KRC20 open beta relaunch will likely occur occur in mid-August earliest. Moreover, the Rust migration is still not 100% complete yet, but we could be seeing both of these catalysts occurring in August, which could be the month that Kaspa flies to 60 cents, if that is not already happening by the end of July. As usual, the hash rate continues to grow, which, as we know, is super bullish for signaling greater adoption and security. On Monday, we just hit a new all-time high hash rate of 441 petahash per second, and right now we currently sit at 425 petahash per second. Ultimately, in my opinion, there is absolutely nothing to fear, and Kaspa is positioning itself very nicely for its next major pump, so just be ready for when that happens. Anyway, I hope that you found this video very helpful in aiding your current knowledge about Kaspa and the wider crypto market. If it was, please support me by hitting that like button to help push my content out to more viewers. Also, subscribe to my channel if you're new and put the bell notifications on to be notified each time I post a new video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.